Greetings. I'm Danny Jones. I'm the EntreMusician, and so are you. Wow, today I have the pleasure of getting to talk here with an old friend from way back in New Orleans. He's a singer extraordinaire, producer, songwriter, just, musician. So I'd like to welcome my old friend, Phillip Manuel.
Hey, Danny. Great to be here, man.
Man, it is great to see you again. It's been quite a number of years since we actually saw each other. Even in it's a great thing about this technology is, you could see each other.
Right.
The way if you say something and you don't like it, you say, oh, yeah, they frowned on that. He didn't like that. Okay. Well, I'll tell you what, I want to touch on a couple of things today as we just kind of reminisce.
All right.
I don't think I mentioned yet that Phillip is in New Orleans. And when I was working at Toussaint recording studio there, I had the pleasure of working with Phillip on at least a couple of different projects. And I'll say this, through the years, I've worked on many, many projects. And from time to time, I pull things out and I listen just for, sheer enjoyment and kind of relive the moment. And I started noticing that you've been part of some of those. So it's like, okay, let's talk to Phil and get some information. Let's start with the first one. I think the first time that you and I worked together was on a project with Patti LaBelle. I don't remember working with you on anything before then. I wasn't brand new at Toussaint at that time, but I still didn't get to know everybody, really well, yet.
Right.
But I know that you were one of the three background singers. I remember, not that they were discussing this with me, but I got the impression, by being there that with talking and listening to Allen and Patti, that they decided to go with three male backup singers on this, because I don't think she has done that before. And
I've never really thought about that aspect of it. That's true. Because normally it's a male and two females or, something like that.
yeah. Well, from my perspective as an engineer, most of the time I sit and listen. I tried not to get in the way, but you do hear things, and I do remember that being discussed. So I remember that coming in, and I remember it was you and. By the way, I don't know if you can see this or not. Maybe not. No, not so well on this. Anyway, this is the Patti LaBelle album that you and I both worked on.
Released, I think was the name of it.
That's correct.
Right.
And it was you and Jay Van Hall.
Jay Hall and Rev, her guitarist.
Rev Bates was Patti's guitarist. And I remember, setting up for the session. Back then, the typical background vocal R&B setup was three microphones, and you have, 1, 2, 3, and then Allen was there, and then the engineer very quickly gets a balance on the three, because those all went down to one track, back in the analog days, and pretty doggone quickly, my impression was, wow, this is going to be really, really good, because you guys really, really brought it home with that. So let me ask you, had you worked with Allen before this project?
I think I worked with Allen on a William Smith project. You remember William Smith?
No, actually, I don't.
William Smith wrote one of my three favorite songs of all time. It is called Backstairs of My Life. As you leave, please tiptoe down the backstairs of my life. Beautiful song. I worked with him on that. I worked with Allen on a few different little things, but I remember that maybe even the Browning Bryant CD, I might have done a couple of things. But the Patti session was the biggest one I had I did with him, and it was the one I'm really most proud of. I mean, we're all over that CD, and the background vocals are just, I mean, they are so tight, so good. I agree with you. It was that we nailed that.
Well, you really, really did. Well, all right. I know what it's like to work with Alan from the engineer, mixer perspective. But what from your perspective out there, what was it like working with him?
I appreciated that he gave direction. He knew what he wanted. Um, and when he got what he wanted, he always let you know that it was what he wanted, that you had nailed it. He might just cock his head to the side and say, "Yeah, all right." You know how Alan was,
Yep.
you know. Um, but he was very definite and sure about what he wanted. He was very meticulous. Um, and you had to come with it. I mean, you couldn't be half stepping singing background vocals for him. You had to be on your game.
Well, I saw that with everyone. Yeah,
Yeah.
there was no anything less than the best, and you put it pretty well. You better be on your game,
Yep.
or you or maybe you won't be there the next time.
That's exactly right.
I found him to be as long as you could always deliver that. I found him. I don't want to say easy to work with, but I'll use that term. He wanted to make sure that you were giving your best, all the
Yeah.
time, no matter what.
Yeah. I never had problems working with Alan. I always enjoyed it immensely.
Did well, let's see. You mentioned those two before him. Did you work with him any more after that project, the Patti project?
Man, it's been so long ago, I just don't remember.
Yeah,
We might have done some demo stuff for some stuff he was thinking about doing with Carla Baker. You remember her?
I do. Yeah,
Yeah, I wrote a song called Time that Alan liked, and um, we might have done some demo stuff on that, but I don't remember some of the other sessions that we did. I'm sure there were others. What I do remember was after working well into the night, stopping at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and these women bringing in all this food for us to eat at 1 o'clock in the morning. And then we'd go back to work after eating when all we wanted to do was sleep.
I can remember. I mean, I remember those sessions with the food coming in, and it was interesting
Yeah.
when um, I'm not going to mention any names, but there were people who used to hang around the studio, and when they knew that Alan had like a big project, like that there was going to be food, they just
Right.
happened to make sure that they were around for those times, so they could go back and share in that because man, the food was something else.
It was, I did a play, Danny, a couple of years ago called Boudin. And there were 5 or 6 singers in this play, and we all told our individual stories about music in New Orleans. And that was one of the stories I told in the play. Boudin was about Alan and the food and how we would, record all night and, eat at 1 o'clock in the morning and come back and play again. It was a really beautiful production as well.
Yeah, you know, certainly for me, and I've actually been told by other people that you and I got to be part of a pretty special time over there at Sea Saint. With Alan. It's interesting to me that how some people are so affected by that, and they comment. It actually makes me feel really good. I mean, I knew it was really special and cool to me personally, but a lot of people look at that time period that you and I both got to experience over there, and they're, I don't want to say envious because that's not the word that I mean, but at the same time, it's like, wow, man, I wish I could have done that,
Yeah.
you know. So,
Yeah,
I'm,
it was a special time.
yeah.
I agree.
Uh, well, moving on, I think it was a year or two after that when I can't remember if you called or if I just found out about it from the studio, but you booked the studio for the what became the Cane River soundtrack.
Right.
For that particular movie. And you probably can't see this either. I have the album of this right here as well. Uh,
No, I can't see it. But
yeah,
I can kind of see it, but I've got one in a frame on my wall here in my office.
yeah. Well, I have to tell you, this holds the record for the longest recording session I've ever done. And
Really?
yeah, well, I've this album, and there are what, 10 songs on this, I think. Yeah, that's what it looks like. 10 songs.
How
Start
long did it take us?
one 24-hour session.
That's
And
the shortest, you mean?
well, depending on as far as
Oh,
making an album, yeah,
longest in terms of going all day. I see what you're
yeah.
saying.
I remember we showed up at noon on like a Sunday, and uh, this doesn't say this on the credits, but I thought there was more than one rhythm section on this.
There were two or three. David Torkanowski and David Mandabello played piano on different tracks, but Mark Dubuclay and Bunchy Johnson were the only drummer and bass player on there. And I think Jay Griggs may have been the only guitar player on the session. I think only the keyboards were different.
Well, maybe that's what I was thinking because like you said earlier, it's been a while, since we did these sessions, and
Right.
I just remember other people coming in. Boy, you sure mentioned some names that sure bring back some great memories
Yeah.
for me. I worked quite a bit with Jay, and I worked a lot with Bunchy.
Yeah.
Boy, Bunchy was a great guy,
Yep.
and
Really good drummer.
oh, absolutely, absolutely. Uh, but I remember we did these tracks. I mean, I had no idea we were going to be in for this marathon.
I didn't either. And I didn't remember that.
Boy, I did. And at yeah, like I said, we this was scheduled to start at noon. At 5 a.m. Monday morning, this is like 17 hours into the session.
Wow.
The comment is like, "Whew, that's all the recording," and I'm going, "Oh man, great man, I'm tired," you know. And then your buddy Horace says, "Okay, now let's mix." I just went through
Oh
a
my God.
17-hour recording session. You
You
know,
didn't mix then though, did you?
oh yes,
You
yeah,
did?
yeah. You didn't stay with us. I can't remember, but I mean,
I don't recall.
it's 5 in the morning, and I said, Horace, I said, man, I'm fried. He said, no, 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 man, I I have to overnight this. It has to be in Hollywood or wherever, L.A., wherever,
Right. Right.
Tuesday morning. And I said, man, I'm not sure I give you my best work. He said,
Right.
oh no, man, I have faith in you. I have faith, and I'll take care of you. Which he didn't, by the way. But anyway, at noon Monday,
We were finished.
we were finished with the record.
Wow, 24 hours.
Yep.
Wow.
I remember thinking, because I was told, yeah, it's getting some airplay on whatever stations. And I remember going, gosh almighty, I hope this sounds decent. Because I really was mixing on autopilot,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, believe me, autopilot was damn good.
Well, thanks. Thanks. Somebody, I think it was Torkanowski I ran into, and he knew what we went through. He said, hey man, I
Right.
heard it on the radio. I said, how'd it sound? He said, All things considered, man, it sounds pretty good.
Yeah, they used to play What's a Man Supposed to Do on the local station. You remember that?
Offhand,
What's
that
a
was
man supposed to do
okay.
when all his plans have turned into the game of life? That was like the big hit.
Well, you know, uh, I'm actually proud of this record. Just from my perspective,
Yeah,
it sounds great. But the well, I've heard "Back to My Old Hometown," and
right.
then what's the other one that I mentioned to you? That
Now that I know you love me.
yeah, boy, those just kind of showed up one time. On the internet sometimes things pop up, and
Yeah,
it was a couple of years ago, and I had not listened to it in a very long time, and it's like, man, this is really good. You know,
yeah.
you guys,
And now that I know you love me, I mean, people really like that song. They love the groove and the happiness of it and just the way it felt. It just felt good,
yeah,
that song. You know, when we got those songs, Danny, they were just piano and vocal tracks written by a guy named Leroy Glover out of New York. He's passed away, and Horace has passed away too.
yeah.
But they were just piano and vocal tracks, and Jay Griggs and I would get together every morning and figure out what kind of groove each song would have, how we would arrange them, and things like that. They really didn't have grooves. We had to put grooves to them, and that's what we did.
Well, you did it really well, and then of course you chose some great musicians to
Yeah,
help you out with that.
yeah,
Uh, so let's move along. I actually started looking you up last night again to see what else you have been doing, and I see that you have at least a few jazz records that you've done,
yeah.
which
And
doesn't
I've got a
surprise me.
new one. I've got a new one coming out next spring.
You know, one of the things that, and I actually listened to several things. You you not only are still have these incredible vocal chops, you also have an incredible sense of let me choose some great musicians to accompany me on this. I couldn't say, unfortunately, when you listen to things on whatever subscription service, it's very difficult to find credits
Hmm.
because, I'm a credit looking guy.
Yeah, me too. Me
And
too.
I wanted to see, who's playing on this because, man, these guys really good.
On my Max Jazz record, Love Happened to Me, that's Adonis Rose on drums, Bill Huntington and Roland Guerin on bass, Steve Mazakowski on guitar, Bill Summers on percussion, Peter Martin, who has been playing for Diane Reeves for the last 12 or 13 years on piano. Mike Polera has arranged everything I've ever done on my jazz records. He plays on a couple of songs, but he has arranged and produced everything I've ever done. Nicholas Payton is on the Max Jazz record, and so is who's the sax player? Oh shit, can't remember his name. I'm so terrible about that. But yeah, they were great musicians on those records.
So it was a different set on each record, or some of the
Well,
same.
Adonis plays on all of my jazz records, the drummer. As a matter of fact, the new record that's coming out in the spring, Adonis not only plays on, but he produced it. And it's called the Rose Manuel. His name is Rose, Adonis Rose. It's called Rose Manuel, The Unusual Suspects. And that's a song on the record. And the record features 11 songs, but 9 of the songs, many of them were former instrumentals, some jazz standards that I wrote lyrics to over the years. and am singing, you know. But Adonis produced the record and is playing on it as well.
So, where are you recording, or where did you record this?
I recorded this record at a place called Artisound, Artisound, on St. Claude Avenue here in New Orleans. A little small studio, and Tim Stambaugh did the recording. And when it's mixed, Bruce Barriel is going to do all. I mean, when it's mastered, Bruce Barriel is going to do the mastering. Do you know him?
I do not.
Yeah, he's a fantastic mastering artist. But Tim Stambaugh recorded it and mixed it.
Yeah, I do know Tim.
Yeah, and it features some young guys that I've been working with over the years, like Max Moran on bass, Ricardo Pascal on sax. Who else is on that record? Adonis, of course. Steve Mazakowski is on it. There's a phenomenal young pianist called Seth Finch, and Steve Lands plays trumpet on the record. And like I said, Mike Polera did all the arrangements and, you know, co-produced.
You know, some of those names I recognize, and you know, some are old friends, like
Right.
Mazakowski. I see him pretty much every year. You know, I've been mixing the jazz tent at Jazz Fest for the past several years.
The live mix?
Yeah,
Yeah, the stage mix.
yeah, yeah.
The one
Front of
that goes
house.
out to the audience.
Correct.
All right. Fantastic. Well, I'll be performing there this year coming up.
Oh, really? So you'll be on the.
We'll be doing the record.
Well, great. Well, I have plans to be there.
Yeah, I'll come out and holler at you.
Yeah, please do. Please
Yeah.
do. You know, that's been a great experience for me going back, because I'm amazed at how many people that I knew and worked with, you know, 40 years ago are still around,
Yeah,
and
man.
they're playing on the jazz tent. I mean, obviously a lot of them aren't still around.
Yeah, we've lost a few people,
Yeah.
like George French,
Yeah.
one of
I,
the greatest vocalists I've ever known.
yeah, we could you know, couple years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, oh, Kid Jordan.
Kid Jordan.
You know, I went up to him, and you know, obviously this was probably the year before he passed on, and I went up. You know, when I'm doing that job, it's not exactly a leisurely position out there, and I
No.
but I try when I see you know, an old friend or acquaintance. You know, I try to like go up and say hello, and
Right.
I did finally get up to see him. I looked at him and said, "Hey, listen, do you remember me?" He says, "Well, yeah, man. I thought you looked familiar." You know, and I just I love, you know, seeing, you know, people that from a former life, you know, of mine.
That are
Uh,
still in the game.
yeah, yeah, and this year it's going to be great too, because I get to work with you. So you know, I'm looking forward to that. So new record. Anything else you? Oh, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, how do they do that?
Well, they can call me. They can email me at Phillip Manuel, two L's in Philip, 53 at yahoo.com. I'm looking forward to some representation next year. That hasn't lined up yet, but you know, right now, you know, you can reach out to me or to Adonis Rose. His manager's name is Adrian Ross. Adrian will probably be handling the record. Um, um, and Adrian's email is Adrian, Adrian at ARE dot. Oh shit. I have to get it for you, Danny. I don't remember
It's
it.
it's all right.
But yeah, they can reach me at my email. And
And
I'm on Facebook.
okay, and then of course, most of what I listened to last night was on Amazon Music, but I guess
Yeah.
your
I'm all over
records.
YouTube too.
Okay, All right,
Yeah.
great. We got any last thoughts or comments about anything that you want to tell to the world here?
Well, I'm doing a lot of different things. I have a small PR business. I I am a writer. After singing, writing is my big love and passion. So I've been writing, ad copy and stuff like that for years, and I write killer lyrics. Mike Polari and I have written some great songs over the years. He writes the music, I write the lyrics, that have been featured in TV shows like NCIS New Orleans and Treme and movies and stuff like that. And, I also do a lot of work with my voice. I do a lot of radio and TV commercials as a voiceover talent. I'm narrating a ballet that Adonis wrote the music to. I've narrated it a couple of times. I did it in Detroit, and we did it in Alabama. We're going to do it in Lafayette at the end of January. So I'm doing narration. Anything that requires the voice, I'm working with it. And I've been working with a couple of local singers, coaching them on just how to be better at their craft. They've come, as you get older, Danny, people, you finally start getting the respect you deserve, So people are coming to me now for advice on how to sing well. And, I've been like I said, I've been coaching a couple of singers, and I'm enjoying it,
Great, great. Well, listen, I really, really appreciate you being here. Always enjoy
Same
our
here, Danny. I'm glad you had me on.
conversations, and wish you the best. And if not before, I will see you
At
in
Jazz
New Orleans.
Fest.
Yes, indeed.
You
Okay.
got it, man.
Well, I hope you enjoyed this great conversation. We will be coming back to you with another wonderful interview, so look out for it. My name is Danny Jones. I am the EntreMusician, and so are you. Take care.